Welcome to the Eating Elephants Ministry podcast portion of the ministry here. We have Logan Brownlow. He's a local Lakeland Police Department officer. He's a loving husband, and he's also a former youth of mine when I was in the youth pastor game. So thanks for tuning in. Stay to the end to see what we kind of get to the action step, taking a bite of the elephant. And, yeah, thanks for watching. All right. What's up, buddy?
What's up, man?
So I'm a little pumped up, so I'm going to try and calm down a little bit, but it's a Monday, so I drank a few Red Bulls getting here, and my heart is racing.
Pumping.
Yeah.
Me too,
And
man.
what happened beforehand was I drank my Red Bull, and Logan had his Red Bull in front of him. I thought I left my Red Bull over there when he came in, and I just sipped it, and he didn't...
I just thought you really liked it, man.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything about that.
Yeah. So that was a very kind gesture that you let me put my lips
I mean, I didn't really
on.
have a choice, but
Yeah,
of course.
I just grabbed it, man. Sorry about that. That was pretty wild. But you're a former youth of mine. What rate my performance, man?
Your performance?
Yeah. As your youth pastor. 10 years, I don't know how many years ago it was. You can give me a bad rating. It's fine. It's my first job.
I think pretty high rating.
Nice,
Obviously I was younger, so a lot of the messages are going to be harder to remember, but I just remember back in your time frame when you were there, that was probably the highest our attendance has ever been. So you were able,
yeah.
I don't know what strategy you had with that, but you were able to engage people and get them to show up and bring more people. And now, that's kind of slacked off, but
yeah. I don't really know how they're doing over there, but I think that the attendance thing, it's hard to address that as a real compliment, because I think, if you're gonna judge it off of attendance, then some of these guys that are just preaching like the worst stuff, but have a really charismatic way of saying it, but nobody's actually growing in the Lord.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see that. So
I didn't do a good job on a lot of things, I'd say. Being my first job, just learning a lot of things. So,
yeah.
But I appreciate you saying, hey, man. I mean, what did I do? I let you guys wax my legs that one time.
Yeah, wax your legs. Shave your head a few times or something.
Just classic.
Yeah.
Classic, like, try hard stuff, man.
Of course.
So, but yeah, none of that is like anything Jesus-y. It's just like, hey, this is wild boys
at church. This many friends.
Yeah. I mean, I liked having lock-ins, but then I set my lock-in at like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. That's a real rookie move. I learned that later.
Yeah. Looking back on that, though, it's kind of like weird thinking about like, hey, I'm going around school like, hey, dude, if you come to church with me, you can see this random man get his legs waxed. We need enough people, and you can watch this random man get his head shaved.
Nice, dude. Yeah. There's a couple mistakes. I remember I had a game that went really bad. Where
we had a competitive group too, which was, pretty much any game almost turned into fistfights.
Yeah. It was. I mean, I was down for that kind of competition for sure. But that one where we used tape to alter somebody's facial expressions to kind of have the funniest face, and a kid got up there and just wrapped it all around his face and in his hair.
Oh, I don't know if I was there for that.
Oh, dude. I mean, like an adult had to take him out, and I just felt really bad because I didn't think that one through.
Yeah.
I mean, it was immediate. Like they're like, oh, this is gonna be funny, and then just like blinded him and
There's a lot. I feel like a lot of games that are like that. Like it's good on paper, but then like once you start playing, you're like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I did that one where you tape somebody up on the wall.
Oh yeah,
on the
I remember
table.
that.
That's like unfun after 3 seconds of hanging
Oh,
up
yeah.
there. Yeah, that kid was like, all right, I'm done with this. But he was a good sport about it, but I wouldn't do it again. So, but yeah, man. And you were, I'd say that you were a student that was really into it. Like when you were at church, man, you were about participating, and you were about like, kind of getting what you can out of it. It wasn't just like a fun thing. you know,
Yeah.
I think you were receptive.
And
Yeah.
that's probably one thing, like, starting out when I first came, my parents brought me, didn't know really anything about church. And for the longest time, it was more like, oh, this is just something, you know, to come and hang out with people after school. And I see that now, you know, working in the youth group. I feel like a lot of people have that, like, oh, well, it's just a hangout place after school for me to hang out and do whatever. Especially, I don't know how it was from your end, but now it seems a lot more brazen, like disrespect almost, to, like, you know, have somebody up there preaching or the band playing, and it's like, hey, we're just gonna sit on our phones and do whatever and not even pay attention and just literally have conversations in the middle of the message.
Yeah.
So I that's my biggest thing to harp on, is just like people, especially youth, is like not taking away, like, it's just at most 30 minutes that you have to sit there and actually get something from it, you know, and you're taking away from other people who might be there to get something out of it.
Are you like empowered to be able to stop something like that?
Yeah. When I see it, you know, I'll normally tell people. When it's the girls, though, I'll normally let my wife do it, because she
Gotcha.
has more of what's the word I'm looking for? More like
Gentleness.
no, like reputation.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Gotcha. Equity. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what we would say.
Rapport,
Relational equity.
rapport.
Gotcha.
That's a police word.
Yeah. So you're involved there. I didn't realize you're involved in the youth group for how long now? How long you been?
Probably, say like 3 years now.
Awesome, man.
Yep. I wasn't going to church for a while, but then when I started going back, that was kind of one of the things. I think I started going back around the time COVID was going around, and they had instead of doing like the normal church camp, go out for the summer and come back, they did it there at the church, and I showed up there and just saw that, and was like, I realized how much youth had an impact on my life, and I was like, well, I want, you know, that for other people. I want to be there for other people like that. So
Yeah, and then whenever we were kind of, you know, when I was there serving there, you had a really good buddy that, like, that there was some clicks there for sure.
Oh,
but,
yeah, absolutely.
But you and him were really close, and then when we reconnected, you guys fell off, and I was really surprised about that.
Yeah.
I was really surprised about that. I mean,
Yeah.
that was pretty shocking to me, just because it was one of those situations where I thought, if anybody's going to stay cool, it's these two, you know?
Yeah, we had a pretty strong friend group growing up, and I mean, we'd probably spend the night at each other's house every week, and, you know, just pretty much do everything together. Yeah. So,
Yeah. And then you said there was a lady that got involved.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Yeah, it was a very weird. It was just a stupid, you know, high school, like, hey, I think I'm an adult, I'm gonna make a dumb decision, and because I'm an adult, I can do this. When, you know, you're like 16 years old, and you're like, don't know anything about life.
yeah.
So, you know, I got to the point where I chose that relationship over my friendship, and it just went downhill from there. You know, at first I did it right. I waited till they got done dating or whatever, and then went in, and then the girl was pretty much like, hey, you know, I'm back with him now, but that doesn't mean that we have to stop being together. And then my stupid high school boy self was like, oh yeah, for sure,
man.
of course.
Yeah.
So
Gosh, that's when it gets
yeah,
real dicey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you know, everything got found out there, and that kind of, I would say at that point, me and him, we kind of stopped talking, but I wouldn't say we weren't friends anymore. Kind of stopped talking and just didn't communicate with each other. And then at that point, I would say when everything got found out, obviously that was like kind of done there. But
Gotcha. So you were dating her first, and then
so he was dating her first. He was, and then they broke up. We kind of like dated or whatever, and then it was like, oh, hey, just so you know, I got back with him. So
Gotcha.
They got back together, and then it was like, hey, but, you know, we can still be together too. It's like having, what is it, the expression, having your cake and eating it too. Yeah.
Yeah. She ate your cake, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Gross,
Something
dude.
like that. Too much cake.
So, yeah, I mean, it's funny how much, like, girls in general at that age can really kind of become the priority, you know. And
Absolutely.
suddenly, I had a situation like that happen with me where my best friend growing up, he had a real hard time like talking to me as a friend and like hanging out with me, and then also having a girlfriend. Like it was either one or the other.
Yeah.
You know, and their relationship for a while there was on and off, so it was kind of weird because he would be really cool with me, man. We'd be playing Rock Band or something, and then that text would come through, dude, you know, and they'd be back together, and it was like, hey, man,
Gotta head out.
I don't know who you are for the next month,
Yeah.
you know? And that I took it super personally. I mean, it was all emotion for me. And not, I think it was just my empathy there of putting, you know, being able to see his situation
Yeah.
and kind of his lack of boundaries or lack of like understanding that you can have friends and a girlfriend.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it just wasn't there too much.
I definitely understand that. Going into my marriage, you know, coming out of high school, I had a guy who was like, I'd say probably my best friend, and ended up being the best man at my wedding. And now it's like, it's so weird how stuff changes like that. It's like now I don't even talk to him anymore, just because it was like one of those relationships where, you know, he would get involved with the girl or just other stuff in life, and it's like didn't have enough time for me when I would make time for them.
Yeah.
But like big example was when I was graduating the police academy. My wife invited them to come to the graduation, and they swore up and down. They're like, "Oh yeah, for sure, I'll be there." Day comes, nowhere to be seen. Which, you know, it is what it is at the end of the day. But it's just weird how stuff like that, women, other things in life, just kind of can.
Yeah. And I mean, the crazy thing is like, even though the girls are involved, it's like they're not to blame at all, dude. It's a guy. It's him making the decision.
For sure. For sure.
You know, I mean, he chose her over like having any kind of connection, you know, and I think it's strange because of the lack of emphasis in our culture on having lasting friendships.
Yeah.
And valuing those things. I think that with like ghosting and just being able to separate yourself from someone pretty easily, because there's not many social gathering kind of places where you know you're going to have to meet that person, like you're going to have to work out those differences. Like it's pretty easy to cut somebody off from your life as long as you don't go to a certain address or, you know, hang out with the people they hang out with.
And even that, I'd say it's also maybe a mindset thing. Easier to think, oh, well, I text this person or I talk to them on Facebook, so, you know, I have this relationship with them, when it's not really, like you said, you're not meeting in person, you're not having like actual.
Yeah. Do you feel like you blow up those situations?
What do you mean?
Like, if you're trying to act like everything's cool, are you the one that initiates that and says, hey, everything ain't cool?
No.
Oh man,
I
feel like that's a real problem for me, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
I can only do so much, and if someone else, you know, doesn't reciprocate that, then
yeah, control what you can control.
it's almost like, you know, like perfect what you said. Control what you can control.
I appreciate that. I mean, that's a lot of maturity that I've actually, you know, a decent amount older than you. What, 9 years probably? You're 24, right?
24.
Yeah. I got 9 years on you. So,
Dang.
and I did not know that 9 years ago.
Yeah.
For sure. So is that something that came from, like, you just going through life, the job? What kind of got you into this mindset of being able to, you know, just relax?
I mean, it's always the cliche Sunday school answer, but, you know, just my relationship with the Lord and growing with the Lord, and ultimately seeing the stuff He's done in my life and how things have worked out, and just trusting in Him. And it's like, okay, well, He's going to take care of everything. It's not something that I can do. he's obviously going to call me and tell me to do things, but
Yeah.
until he calls me and tells me to do that thing, that's been a big thing recently, is just learning to be still and just allowing stuff to happen and move in my life. Last summer camp I went to, where I was a leader there, that was the message, and it's like just a big slap in the face to see how much time is wasted throughout the day, and we can't just sit and be still for a minute just to either read a devotional or sit and pray or whatever. Especially now with iPhones. I mean, you get the, I don't know, do you have iPhone?
Yeah.
You get the screen time message every week, and it's like I spent that much time on my screen out of the day, and it's like I couldn't take 5 minutes of that time to,
Yeah, I think, one of the big things for me is if I'm going to be out there serving and I'm kind of giving away what I'm given, there's going to be a draining process on me that I have to replenish. And it's just going, it would be strange to go to the gym without sleeping,
for sure,
or without drinking water.
For sure.
And so, like, to do stuff like this where, I'm trying to serve people and stuff, it's kind of this knowing, like, hey, this is my protein shake, this is my warm up, this is my stretching before the game kind of deal, is being in the Word or being in prayer. And I think it just becomes more essential the more involved you get in serving God, and trying to get out there and get after it, and to think about control what you can control. It's like, all right, you can control the spiritual disciplines to a certain extent. Like you choose to pray, you choose to study, not just read the Bible, but study the Bible and kind of gain something. What are your practices there? Like whenever you go to replenish, is prayer for you? Is it reading? Is it, being with others and like fellowship? Like where you?
Yeah, I'm a big worship guy.
Okay.
My wife, she leads worship at her family's church, and her father's a worship pastor, so I'm a big worship guy. Prayer is another big thing when it comes to, starting out anything. I think I don't want to get it wrong. Let's see if it's a book in Revelation.
He can look it up. He's got
I'd say it's Revelation 4, but let me just double check. It's just talking about God on the throne.
Yeah.
Just his, descriptors and how like majestic and like magnificent that is, and it's like that. It's from the book Crazy Love. I don't know if you've ever read that.
Yeah, I was just about to say Francis Chan goes in on Revelation 4.
That's where I got that from, and I'm like, that just changes so much of like you going into your like, hey, I'm not just talking at God. You're changing how you're actually sitting there, having a conversation and praying. It's not like, hey, do this for me, do that for me. This is what I'm experiencing. Like, you can do that, but.
Yeah, I would say even that right there, like Crazy Love.
Still haven't read all of it. I'm slacking.
Yeah? Yeah. It kind of puts you in perspective of who you're talking to, yes, but it also lets you be more reverent in your life.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's how you're walking. That's who you're serving. And I thank God for a lot of those guys like that are out there emphasizing things at the right time in my life, just kind of those moments. I attribute a lot to like this book by John Piper, Don't Waste Your Life. I read that at a young age, and that really helped me out a lot. Play the Man was a big one. So there's just certain times where people are out there and they're grinding, they're doing their thing for the Lord, and it just hits you in the right moment, changes your mind on some things.
Yeah.
But so you just went to a youth camp that wasn't for youth, and it's like, be still, and you're like, all right. It's that easy for you, like where you hear a message and it's like, I can do that.
Yeah. And I think it's a big it's like, hey, I'm supposed to be leading, these kids in their small group session, and it's like, how can I lead these kids when I'm not, taking in the stuff that I'm telling them?
Right.
I think the biggest one recently, we just had it's that same group, So I went with my church here and then my wife's church. We had 2 separate camps that we went to. So the first one was a Fuge, and big thing with them was the revival generation. Was their message this year.
Okay.
Just talking about, being the generation that, revives. Yeah. And then going into the other camp, it was talking about all things new. So I think the biggest thing was just seeing the things in my life that are preventing me from becoming a new creation or preventing me from, being a part of that revival generation, and just cutting those things out. Almost, like idols, or just whether it be, hey, I'm scrolling on Snapchat and you have the Discover page or whatever, and the first thing you see is women on there. And it's like they have the most clickbait things on there to, hey, come look at my story. So it's like now I've just gotten to the point where I'm like, all right, let's just hide this content from my thing.
Gotcha.
Where, used to, it's like, oh, well, I can look at that real quick. It's not going to be too big of a problem. And
Gotcha.
then it just,
yeah,
slippery slope. But
it's very, if you're not guarding against it, it's going to show up on your doorstep.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I do like the algorithms that I've curated at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a little weird whenever you first download an app. Like, that stuff is right in front of your face.
Especially like Twitter. I don't have Twitter anymore because I feel like it's just a cesspool of.
Yeah, I don't have Twitter. I mean, I guess we'll have it for the podcast. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we gotta do that for whatever.
Well, it might be different now with.
They just allow porn on there, right? That's
pretty much.
Pretty much, or like definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, I'm sure it might be different now with Elon managing it. I don't know, but
I don't know.
And that was like going back to what we were talking about before with me and my friend, being able to cut stuff out. It's just being so involved in a relationship and not being able to see the bad side of it, that you're just so focused on, okay, I need to work on this relationship, and what can I do in the moment, as opposed to when we ended up splitting up. She broke up with me, we split up, she went off, and it gave me that time to sit and think and kind of clear my head. And it's like, why do I want to be in this relationship? What is, keeping me in this relationship? And it just gave me that clear head, and just seeing like there were times we would be at church, it'd be me, her, and then my buddy, he'd be up on stage or whatever down below. We'd normally sit in the balcony, and it would just be like, oh, look at him down there, like, why, like, he looks so dumb. And I'm just like, what do we get out of saying this stuff about him?
What are we doing? Yeah.
Like, I never said that stuff. I'm just like, why do we, like, who cares? Like, if we're together in a relationship, why do we have to worry about that? So that time alone just really made me realize, the mistake that I made, and ultimately wanting to change that. And that's where I got back in to the church there around that COVID time, and getting back with the youth. And I saw my buddy and a few of my other friends that were part of that friend group were engaged with the youth. And obviously that was hard for me coming back in, just destroying that trust and having to come back and rebuild that trust. And it wasn't instant that they were like, oh, hey, you should come back and hang out with us, or come to dinner with us, or whatever. So it took a few times to go on and just regaining that trust and working on myself, and ultimately setting my priorities straight. And I mean, now we're where we're at now, and my buddy, me and him are like brothers again, pretty much. We hang out all the time, talk all the time. We go to the camps pretty much every summer together.
That's awesome, man. I mean, that is the way that we are commanded to be, where we have to forgive.
Yeah.
But there's also repentance.
Oh yeah.
So
Absolutely.
like, was there any way that you tried to show him, like, hey, this is how I've turned, or this is like how I
just actually sitting down and talking, and both of us realizing like we weren't the problem in the situation. We were kind of being fed different stuff, and just understanding like, hey, we don't, because just from the outside looking at it and not talking to him, it's like, oh, well, he hates me, or maybe vice versa, he thinks that I hate him.
Mm-hmm.
But just being able to actually sit down, it's like, hey, I don't hate you. I forgive you for that stuff. I forgive myself for the stuff I've done, and just being able to move on from there.
Gotcha. So whenever that happened, like, did he want to kind of like wait a while, or was it just kind of like more conversations? Or...
Yeah, it was. I mean, I wouldn't say it was instant. It was kind of took a little time, and then I reached out. I think first, just kind of apologized about everything. And then kind of went from there and started going out as a friend group, and then we kind of started, just going out together as friends and just building that trust back.
So do you feel like now you value friendships, but back then you weren't valuing friendships?
Yeah,
or?
I'd say so. I'd say I got so focused in, a relationship that wasn't building up my life or my relationship with the Lord, and it was kind of taking away from these other relationships that have built me up and have strengthened, my faith and relationship with others.
Yeah, I think, in my situation, it was very abrupt. I kind of just confronted him because he wanted to get married right out of high school to this girl.
Yeah.
And I was just like, hey, dude, I don't think I know how this is going. So, like, I guess, I want to be your friend, and I don't think it's a good idea for you to get married at this young to this girl, because it just seemed like I blamed her, of course, but I realize now it's his decision he was making.
Yeah.
And he was just like, no, this is happening, man. See ya. And dude, that was like, I think he got in a motorcycle accident maybe 5 years after that conversation. And I talked a little bit with her after that just to kind of check in. But it was hard, man. Like, he didn't invite me to his wedding.
Yeah. Same for me.
And,
with my buddy was my best man. I didn't get invited to their wedding, and
gotcha.
he just recently had a kid, which I'm happy for them, but
yeah.
I would love to be a part of that stuff.
Yeah. And it broke my heart, man. I think it took him kind of being alone long enough to realize that he needs, like, friends.
Yeah.
And not just a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's more to, and I think biblically as well, like, all these disciples went out as twos. Like, you always have these brothers
Absolutely.
that we're supposed to be going with. Like, I felt weird if I was going to try. I thought about, hey, God, if this podcast starts and nobody shows up, I'll just record it myself. But I was like, that's not really how the guys did it. So, Tony's here, and that's cool. I'm appreciative that God provided. And just knowing, like, there's always, men are not supposed to be islands.
Yeah.
Men are not supposed to be, like, it's just biblically, Jesus just walking around with people.
Mm-hmm.
There's very few times where he's solo, and when he's solo, he's with the father, he's talking with his dad. So
absolutely,
it's important to value those friendships. And I think that a lot of times we kind of get caught up in selfish ambition, or we get caught up in the feelings of, where we feel most insecure. Like, we want this relationship to really work because, like, this is not something that's going well for me, relationship wise.
Yeah.
So we want that to go really well, but we kind of count on our buddies to always be there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, they can't just take the trash, every time.
Absolutely.
Like, you gotta contribute. And he repented. Like, I held a lot of hurt for a better part of a decade, man.
Mm-hmm.
Just from that. And it's not like I was texting her and being like, you took my friend or nothing. I was just kind of like, dang, dude, we were so tight. Like, I would go over there every summer. I'd be over there, we'd be hanging, and we rode the same bus. Like, that helped a lot.
Yeah.
And, dude, he ended up just saying, like, hey, man, he wanted me to go walk the Lake Hollingsworth with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he freaking apologized. And he's like, hey, man, I'm sorry, man. He's in that voice, like, when you finally hear kind of that sadness and that, like,
yeah,
that real contrition, And the voice, man, it was like, I'm not gonna cry
Yeah.
in front of this dude, right? Like, but I wanna cry.
Yeah.
I wanna be,
Sure.
But this also took you 10 years to say, so I'm holding this back.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then I got home, dude, and I was like, he said sorry, babe. Like,
Just a little bit of bitterness, but then it's like at the end of the day.
Yeah, like I don't want to give him the satisfaction.
Yeah. You're not going to see me cry.
But we talked about it later. Like, yeah, dude, I definitely cried after that, man.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a huge moment for me that
Yeah.
that you came back in my life, man.
Yeah.
Because I never wanted him to leave, and it was a really really big bummer. But I think that it's a beautiful thing that God kind of puts these things in place where it's talking about you can't say no. You're not allowed. Like, it's commanded that you have to forgive if they've repented.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not, hey, you have to forgive everybody and just let them keep taking advantage of you.
For sure. I feel like there's a healthy difference in, forgiving somebody and saying, hey, I forgive you for the actions you've done, but I'm not going to allow you to be back in my life with that same, role that you had.
Yeah. And I think it's like specifically with the brothers too, like brothers and sisters, like those in the faith. Sure, we're held to a higher standard, and so the standard is like to repent and that kind of thing. But oh man, it's just hard sometimes to get somebody to see the error of their ways. Like sometimes you just have to let them do their thing. I mean, that took 10 years, man, before that guy apologized.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure, me being me, like I said, I was probably too aggressive in how I was saying. I probably was like, don't marry her or else we can't be, maybe I said something like that. I don't think I came off that way, but there's been times where I've popped off. Like I remember me and my brother had beef one time. We were playing a video game, of course.
Yeah.
And I was supporting him. He was carry. And I thought we could get 2 kills. He thought we only got this one. We got in a fight. He rage quit. Dude, 6 months later, we haven't talked. And he texts me, happy birthday. And I texted him back like, don't think that you telling me happy birthday means we're okay. We still got to solve this, and you still got to talk to me.
Yeah. Because
I tried talking to him, on the game and stuff, and he was like avoiding me. And then he texted me happy birthday, acting like everything's chill. Now I'm gonna blow that up. I'm gonna address the issue here, bro. And and he's like, well, I was just trying to tell you happy birthday. I was like, I know what you're trying to do, man. so we got to talk now. If we want to talk, we talk. Yeah. And so we got on the conversation, and that's only because I have like the relationship with him to know what he's trying to do there.
Yeah.
To know he's trying to be like, he's much more passive and more like, let's just act like everything's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've never wanted to live that kind of life where we just kind of, oh, it's all good.
I mean, that was a thing too, coming back into that friendship, the girl that I was dating was a part of that friend group before everything happened, and just her seeing all of us back together, I'm sure she had some sort of resentment. And I remember seeing her post something about, hey, I don't understand how this group of friends can forgive one person but not the other, and just pretend like, nothing happened and accept them back. And that was something I pulled to you and, was like, hey, listen. I was like, I worked to build that trust back. I'm like, what we did was wrong. It wasn't right, Yeah. And we completely destroyed people's trust, and I worked to rebuild that trust, and I made, progress to gain their trust back. So you can't just expect, like, you can, obviously forgiveness is a thing, but you can't expect, like I said, to be right back where you were without working to regain that trust.
So you're saying she's still on the outs?
Yeah, I mean, I assume. I mean, I haven't
that feels
talked to him
like
forever, but
I don't know. That feels kind of feels like somebody's trying to tell you like, hey, I want to be back in.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I worked for this.
Yeah.
Is that what I mean,
it was more like, it was kind of that, and it also seemed like it was like kind of shifting blame, like, hey, I don't understand why they're allowing this person back in, but not me. I didn't do anything wrong. I don't understand.
Okay.
Is the way that
I don't know, man.
I received it.
See, in that situation, I'd still kind of think that it says, in Scripture, like if you know somebody has something against you in the Bible, even if you're not, if you're at the altar and you know something, can you look that up, Tony? If you know somebody has a problem with you or something like that, like if you know a brother has something against you, go and solve that. But it doesn't say like if you caused a problem with a brother or a sister, then you have to go solve it. It's like if you know somebody has a problem with you. You know what I mean? So, which really stinks as far as having to eat crow sometimes and just be like, yeah, if you upset somebody and they, let me see this here. Okay. It says, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, no, not that one. It's like when you're at the altar and you realize somebody has but anyways, just talking about like, even if you're right and making the right call, like I've had to do this where I told somebody that they couldn't put not lanyards, but like banners up that had Christian words on them in the youth room, and it just looked tacky, like it looked bad.
Yeah.
But it really bothered her, so I was like, all right, man, I'm going to go apologize. And therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First, go and be reconciled to them. Then come and offer your gift. Yeah, so it's just, I had to go and try to be reconciled. I mean, it's not in my control, like you said. But yeah, I don't know if that's your situation there where it's like, has the group tried to be reconciled with that person, or because if they are a sister in Christ, we have to pursue that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to sit here and condemn or anything. I'm just kind of thinking of how, if I was that person, how would it feel? Like, would that crew be Jesus to me?
Yeah.
In that situation where that's happening. But, just something to think about.
Sure.
And I only say that I know a lot of people are going to come on here, and I don't have that kind of equity where we can talk like that. But I mean, I feel like I've spoken into your life enough, a little bit. You got some respect for me, I hope.
Yeah, just a little bit.
So, and now you're kind of getting into life in the thick of things. You've been married for how long?
3 years.
3 years.
And what was it? 5 days ago.
Do you feel like, congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you feel like like it's getting more serious as far as working out differences and stuff? Do you feel like that's happening?
What, like with marriage or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're getting to the point now. We kind of decided when we got married we were going to wait 3 or 4 years, have kids, and
oh shoot, nice, dude.
Now we've gotten to the point that we would argue about it every so often. We'd be like, hey, was like, hey, let's have kids now. And then obviously my stuff was like, hey, well, I want to take care of this first. I want to take care of this first, just to try and provide better for the kid. I mean, obviously I know there's no perfect time to have a kid, but recently my stuff has just kind of gone away with time. It's been like, oh, well, first I want to have a house, or first I want to pay my truck off. And then it's like, hey, we're going to wait 5 years. But now it's like the last thing I've been saying is like, well, I just want to pay my truck off. That's it. And then we can, have a kid. Now I'm just like, it is what it is.
Yeah. It's like you have these goals in mind, but then some of that stuff just wears away.
Oh, yeah.
It just kind of goes away and you get excited about certain things. That's cool, man. That's exciting. Yeah. And then work, as far as how long you been on the force? How long you been?
So I've been in the department since 2020, but I've been an officer for about 3 years.
Okay.
So
Gotcha. Do you have, I mean, first of all, thank you.
Of course.
Appreciate you, man.
Of course.
Keeping us safe. And do you have any kind of like assurance that this is what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life, you think? Or is this something where you're not really sure just yet? Or how do you feel about it?
I mean, my biggest thing with work, I think, is just I like to learn new stuff and do new things, you know. I worked at Publix beforehand, and going in and it's like, okay, well, I know I'm going to be scanning groceries today or bagging groceries. So I think just the uncertainty of like coming into work and it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do today. It's exciting,
Yeah.
you know, or with, you know, that job, obviously laws are always changing, things are always changing. So it's constantly evolving, and there's constantly that learning that I'm getting out of it, which is one of my things I like, as opposed to, you know, working at Publix. It's like, okay, well, I know how to work this cash register inside and out at this point.
Yeah.
I can't learn anything else about this.
You feel like you know your stuff pretty well?
I mean, pretty decently, yeah. It's
Yeah.
just, it's like I said, it's always changing, so that's why I like it, because you're always learning something.
Sorry. Do we have any like of those auditors around here? Like, is that something that, or the guys that?
Not too much. No, we did have a guy a few days ago at work that was trying to kind of pull that stuff, and I had to sit down and explain to him, like, hey, what you're doing right now, you may not think you're breaking the law, but you're breaking the law.
Yeah.
And you're going to probably go to jail if you don't listen to what the other officer is telling you.
Did he hear it, or did he go to jail?
He was about to, but then we had another call that took priority. So we're like, hey, you know, this is your lucky day. We got to go to this other call.
Nice, dude. Like, with those guys, do you think they're helping? Do you think they're...
I think that they think they're helping. There's so much ignorance that comes behind the law and people that think that they know the law, and it just kind of, I think that they think they're helping, but they're not. Like, the biggest thing in my job, it's one of my biggest pet peeves. I don't know what it is, but you see it all the time, and I think movies have just conditioned people. Is like, oh, well, I'm under arrest, so now you have to read me my Miranda rights. And it's like, that's not how it works. But people... That's
news to me, dude. I would have expected that.
See, and that's what people think. So they go in and they're like, oh, well, this whole arrest is going to get thrown out, or it's not valid because you didn't read me my Miranda rights. And it's like, that's not how it works. Or we'll go to read Miranda rights when someone's detained, and that they immediately switch to, oh, I'm going to jail now. And it's like, that's not what's happening. We're just reading this to you.
Gotcha.
So, normally with that, it's, you know, if we are detaining you or have some sort of custody over you, and we're going to question you about the crime, we inform you of your rights to not self-incriminate yourself.
Gotcha.
So it's not necessarily, hey, you're under arrest. You could already be under arrest. Like, say, for example, I get called about a disturbance or something, and I see you beat your wife with a baseball bat or something. Like, I get there and actively see that.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, I don't have to sit there and be like, hey, so did you beat your wife with a baseball bat?
Right.
You know, I could sit there and read you Miranda and say, hey, you know, these are your rights. Do you want to talk to me about what happened? And then if you say yes, I'd be like, okay, well, what was going on? You know, why were you hitting your wife with a baseball bat? Yeah. That kind of stuff.
Do you usually walk in on situations that are actively happening? Like, I mean, not usually, but that tends to happen where somebody's called the cops and you're just still walking into a crazy situation around here?
Oh, yeah. There was a time, I want to say it was last year, was probably the closest I've been to having to use, like, lethal force. Was this guy, we got a call right at the beginning of shift. I was driving by and got a call. This guy stabbed his family, mom and brother or something. And I was right down the road. So I'm like, okay, well, get over here real quick and see what's going on. And I get there, first one there, I see the guy walking out in the street with a knife in his hand, and his mom's like in the yard behind him. I couldn't see any stab wounds or anything on her, but you know, his first thing when he saw me was like, please just shoot me. I want to die. I want to die.
Whoa.
So that's a lot, obviously, especially coming right into work, you know, just left the house and you're like, okay, well, you know, going into work and see what we're going to get into today. And then first thing is like, hey, I might have to take this man's life, you know?
Whoa.
Yeah.
And that's 2 years on the job too. I mean,
yeah.
It's pretty.
Yeah. But ultimately, luckily, another officer got there. He was able to hold, lethal coverage, and then I was able to get a successful taser shot and get the knife away from him. And
Nice, dude.
yeah, everybody survived. So
Yeah, do you think that, and I guess that's, do you think that you as a new officer, you're not problematic, but I think these auditors and stuff, they're kind of looking for the problematic cops and stuff that could escalate a situation
sure.
like that. Do you think that in that sense, I mean, yeah, they're trying to be helpful, but I feel like they're never, at least the videos I've seen and like the stuff that I've watched, they're never like actively friendly with a cop and like, cooperative. Yeah. It's always just kind of like, let me make this the worst experience possible, and then you're going to react emotionally, and I'm going to get what I wanted.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they're trying. Is that your experience? Like anytime you run into an auditor, they're trying to.
Yeah, it's all emotional response is what they want out of you. My biggest thing though is like the people like that, or people that are trying to help, or people that complain like, hey, we need to hold police officers accountable, and it's like there's so many openings within departments, and it's like if you want to see a change, go in and make the change.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to sit by and be like, oh, I want this to change, but I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm just going to sit and complain about it.
Yeah, I mean, without like people kind of poking at the force, like, do you think you work closely enough with your fellow officers to be able to recognize somebody's problematic? Like with these cops that just transfer,
oh, yeah, absolutely.
You can tell.
Absolutely.
So what's the process there? Like if you could tell like this officer is a little bit of a loose cannon, what happens with that guy? Why, like, is there anything?
Ultimately, they kind of just destroy their own careers. I had a guy kind of got me into some stuff because I was just on a call with him. He was like a loose cannon kind of type. He ended up getting himself fired just doing dumb stuff. And it's like they mostly take care of their own careers. Where they're not going to keep people at the department that are constantly doing that kind of stuff. And I think that's what a big thing about society thinks is like, okay, they're like rewarding these cops that are constantly doing bad stuff. And I'm sure that happens at places, but yeah. I can say with my department that it's not, they're not going to reward these people.
Yeah, it's difficult to sift out all bad apples.
Yeah, for sure.
So I understand that. I guess what I'm more curious of is if a bad apple is identified, is there anything in place to deal with them before they, screw themselves up? I mean,
I would just go to the supervisor and let them know, hey, this is what I saw and this is what happened, and then.
Do you think do you think action would be taken, or like, what really happens?
I mean, I think it depends on the supervisor and what they say, and
yeah,
I think if it's a problem that's, like that guy I explained, that was already being taken care of himself. So even if I would have went to somebody and said, hey, this is a problem, it'd probably be like, hey, yeah, we know it's already being taken care of.
Yeah, so then on the job, is your faith involved in any? I know separation of church and state. I get that you can't just like be out there, saying, "Hey, instead of this ticket, would you like to hear about the Lord?" Don't be doing that kind of stuff.
I mean, there's times where I'm like, "Hey, I'll be praying for you." I experience people at probably the worst times in their life. So obviously, there's times that I can be praying for people, and
yeah.
But there is kind of. I think that's a big thing recently is seeing like the people I deal with and some of like the real bad people that just being like, hey, Jesus died for these people too. It's kind of hard sometimes to be like, because you don't understand everything. It's like, why would he die for that person? Like they've done X, Y, and Z, but then at the end of the day, I think I'm like, okay, well, I've probably done all this stuff too that's just as comparable, in the eyes of the Lord. So it's like, who am I to sit here and judge and say, what I'm thinking?
Yeah, yeah. It's a humbling experience in that sense, where he's forgiven. He's offered forgiveness to all.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's pretty wild. So, yeah, I mean, you can pray for people. Is there is there any other ways that the faith applies to your job? Like, I mean, I know, is there a sense of maybe not being scared of the alternative or the mortal danger of your job as much? I mean, is that something too, where it's like, hey man, like my wife, it's going to be okay if something happens to me,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
that seems like it would be something that would be reassuring. It's just kind of crazy that you suit up, man, and it could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's been tons of times where, like, I've sat down and thought about it. I'm like, man, I could have really died right there. And it's, I don't know, like in the moment, it's just, you don't think about that stuff, but it's like.
Yeah, it's wild how you're shrugging your shoulders like that, dude.
Yeah, it is.
So,
like, I've had cars almost hit me. I've had, one time we found some kids that were breaking into cars. One was hiding in a trash can, and, I pull him out of the trash can and I go to arrest him. And while I have my back turned, I'm arresting this guy and his buddy, which I didn't know because I got more officers that showed up. They searched the rest of the trash cans. His buddy was right behind me in another trash can with a gun.
Oh,
so at any time, I mean, if he really wanted to, I could have been sitting there cuffing his buddy up. He could have just popped out and shot me in the back of the head. And that would have been,
whoa.
That would have been it. And that's just stuff I think about, like, after the fact, it's not stuff.
Yeah. So you got a lot of thanking God after that shift, like just kind of saying, like, man, this is really awesome that was.
And then just, I think, seeing people at the worst in their lives and being like, how blessed that I am. There's times that I think I have it bad. It's like, oh, something didn't go right that I wanted to, but it's like, it's nothing compared to what, some people are going through.
Okay.
Like people losing loved ones because of crashes or.
Is there times where you're in a situation and you can only, like, it's a burden that you can only do so much? Like, you can only take this guy to jail, but the problem still exists. Like, do you feel like you're making a difference with what you're doing? Or are there times where it's just like, this is only a temporary thing and this is going to persist? Or,
I mean, yeah, there's times I definitely feel the temporary part of it, but here recently with my new position I've been in, we've been dealing a lot with, like the homeless population, and just helping people, like the Talbot House there in Lakeland. They have a diversion program for people that have family in other places that were like, hey, I came down here because of some medical problem and now I'm stuck down here or something like that. What they do is they reach out and say, hey, I have family up in Texas, that they'll accept me, but I just don't have a way to get there. So the Talbot House will pay for a bus ticket or a plane ticket or whatever to get that person back.
Dang, man.
So it's nice being able to get this diversion program to people that obviously, they're either stressed out from being here and they're like, hey, this isn't I was homeless in Texas, which I was used to, I knew where all the places were. I was used to that, but now I'm here, I'm in a new environment, I'm stressed out, I'm depressed, I want to kill myself. And then, I hate to say it like this, but it's kind of taking away resources from the local people that are here that have been homeless from Lakeland, as opposed to these people coming out of state. So it's nice being able to help them and get them, the help that they need and get them back to where they want to go, and then also being able to help the local people and have more time to focus on them.
Wow. Yeah, just thinking of that being a ministry is pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very specific, but also, it is needed. I mean, if you got family and there's just no way to get there.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I just think a lot of ministries like that kind of go under the radar, because if you never need that service, how do you know about it?
Yeah, for sure.
Especially people that are outside the church that just think that we don't do anything, like that we're just a bunch of preachers just passing a plate around, and some of the guys are like that. Some of them are corrupt, greedy people that are, getting jets and stuff like that. Sure. They're not going to be rewarded. They'll get what's coming to them for sure. But then you got people like that where they're doing stuff in silence where you never really hear about that. I mean, that's the first time I'm hearing that there's even a program like that.
There's a lot of like people, like I've explained that to tons of people because they just don't know about that stuff. Like at work, it's like, hey, do you know about this program? And they're like, no, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I may reach out to them just to kind of develop a a partnership there. You know,
Because there's a big thing too. You know, on the other end of it, it's like, hey, if we start doing this on a bigger scale, then what happens when you got other cities and stuff that are like coming to their homeless people and saying, hey, if you go over to Lakeland, they can get you hooked up over there. And then you have all these people migrating here now. And then, you know, out of them that actually go through it. And then some are like, nah, you know what? I'm just going to stay here. I'm not going to try and change anything.
Yeah, I think anybody that's doing service is trying, or should be trying their best not to be taken advantage of.
For sure.
You know, just to utilize the means that people donate to you or the government, you know, grants you or something.
Yeah.
So that is a, but yeah, I mean, if you have a corrupt politician over there that just says, I want to clean up my city, you know, then you're going to have a problem. And there's like, it's almost like some evil is unavoidable.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen, you know? And I mean, I feel like you have an interesting ability to be kind of on the front lines of evil. Like being in the church context, you don't get to see the mess of humans in like a severe way where this guy's stabbing his family or whatever, and he's walking across the street. You know, you have this ability to be kind of on the ground, boots on the ground kind of situation where you're kind of confronting it right there.
Yeah.
Those guys aren't going to go hear a sermon, you know, or go to a small group, which is kind of frustrating for me as a believer to think that the church isn't reaching those places that aren't coming to it.
Yeah, for sure.
But we're supposed to be frontlining and be out there. So anyways, I guess we got to find a way to do something about this. You know, we gotta take some kind of action step, take a bite of the elephant. Is there anything the police need or any way to serve the cops? I mean, is that something? I've got an idea. I'll say that. So don't stress if you can't think of anything, but I've got some, you know, I'm just thinking about what I can do here. So go ahead and answer that first one. I mean, if you say no, that's fine.
I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean,
okay. Yeah, I figured that would happen. I'm sorry if I spoke the no into you.
No, you're good.
But what if, okay, you know, if it does feel repetitive or if it does feel temporary, okay, if we set up a thing where you go into a situation and you feel like this needs more help than what I can do, then you reach out to us and we see what we can do. I mean, that's a simple route. Would that be something? Is that violating any kind of issues?
I'm not sure. I know we have like a victims advocate kind of department that deals with stuff when it comes to victims of crimes like that.
Okay.
So I don't know what our policy and stuff on that is. I'd have to look into all that. But
yeah, I'm thinking like, you know, hey, if you go somewhere and it's like the kid doesn't have a bike or something, you know, or you know, I don't care what it is, whatever God puts on your heart, really, to say like, I want these people to be helped more. You know, it's not a favoritism thing. It's just like it's just a matter of prayer.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to be able for that to be the bite of the elephant, because I don't really get a chance to get out there into some messed up situations. You know, like they present themselves to you, but they don't present themselves to me. So it's like, you would just be the guy that says like, you're just kind of letting me know where the problem is,
like
where the elephant
liaison
is.
Almost.
Yeah. Like I'm going hunting for this elephant, you know, but I don't know
like,
where
hey,
the heck
this
this
is
thing.
spot
You're the
right here.
yeah,
Like the safari guide.
Yeah. But I mean, if something pulls on your heartstrings, man.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I guess just before we post this, just verify, I guess if we post it and it's got this conversation in there, then we're all good. Like that's not going to violate anything. But yeah, I think that would be kind of cool just to, and if you back the blue, like if you support police officers, then we're getting involved to actually support you in a real way. Like, you know, hopefully make some change in the situation that brought you out there or that you saw, you know, that we can get involved. I think that would be pretty cool. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool.
Okay. Well, see, this is this is our 6th podcast. I don't know if we're going to post it as the 6th one. We'll see. But we have not done anything that involved money yet. But I think this would be something where I'm just imagining whatever you point us to, we would want to be able to have some real ability to produce change.
Yeah.
You know? So I think we'll do our first round of trying. I mean, we're a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. We're established. So let's do it. Let's ask for some help. If you guys want to support Logan and, something that, I don't know if it's really associated. We're supporting whoever he points us towards. Yeah. I know that's ambiguous. I know it's like, what are you going to do with the money? Right. But it's like, dude, I'm going to help, man. I'm going to help. I guess you got to, I don't know what I'm going to do just yet because I don't know the elephant yet, but I know I'm going to go after it once I find it. So, or once I get pointed in the right direction. So if you guys want to support, I'd appreciate it. And we can go after something. And it kind of gives you the ability to, hey man, like once you just to have that lens, mm-hmm. You get your on calls, you got a guy in your back pocket that might, hey, I'll send him. Yeah. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like send the dog, bro. And I'm about it. I think that would be kind of cool just because you have a better perspective on the bad stuff going on in the world than me. And I can knock on doors, but I mean, I'm not going to be able to really stir anything up. It's not like people are like, I'm in here abusing my kids, dude. Come on and change mm-hmm. some things, you know what I'm saying? So, all right, man. Well, yeah, I appreciate, and we'll do it for a week from the posting of this video to a week after. And here's what we'll do, guys. Since we haven't raised money before, I plan on doing, it's very, transparent. So we'll post a statement of our bank account at the time that we post this. Mm-hmm. And then a week later, we'll post our bank account again just to show how much money we raised for whatever the situation is. Okay. So there's not going to be any kind of ability to I guess, like, be deceitful. You know what I'm saying? I just want to be open book kind of deal. What's up, Tony?
Yeah, and we also record our bites of the elephant as well. So there's going to be video evidence of what goes on.
Yeah. If we buy something with this stuff or, do whatever we do with it for these people or whatever it is, dude. I mean, I guess we could be helping dogs or whatever. I don't know. Whatever you send us on. Then we'll record that, because we do the follow-up. So, but we'll do it for a week. And then, if you've got somewhere to point us at that point, then we'll get on it. Okay. Yeah?
Yeah, sounds good.
Is that cool?
Sounds good to me.
All right, man. Well, hey, it has been nice to catch up with you, man, a little bit.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
And I appreciate you. I appreciate your service. You're also a veteran. That's pretty dope. Yeah. And, we've known each other a long time. It's just cool to see kind of grow up, and makes me feel a little old, I'll be honest.
Well, I mean,
yeah, but yeah, man, I think you're in the right direction. I'll say that, man. Just to encourage you, I think you have a good heart, and I think you're developing a lot of like just getting back in friendships and doing that kind of thing. It grows your ability to love and look more like him and how you're doing things and just how you're participating in the youth group. I mean, it's not really about numbers, man. It's about that depth, and just being able to make disciples. And so, I just encourage you, man, if there's anything else, like if this is not the idea you want to go with and there's something that comes up like, hey, Eating Elephants Ministry can help out in this, let me know.
For sure.
All right. Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode of the podcast with Logan. We reached back out to him for an update on this. It's been about 2 months since we recorded this, and he hasn't found any situation that we can get involved in to take a bite of the elephant. So what we're going to do is we're going to reach out to Talbot House and go try and serve somebody there that works on staff or maybe volunteers there. And so that's what we're going to be raising money for, is to bless somebody that maybe you don't know, maybe you don't see, that's making a difference in the world. and we'd like to get out there and serve and help somebody that we're rubbing shoulders with. So that's the bite that we're going to be taking and raising money for. Follow us on Facebook for the images of our statements. We want to keep a lot of transparency of where the money goes in our ministry. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'm going to pray it out with Logan. So see you. Let me pray with you, and then we'll get out of here. God, thank you for Logan. Thank you for his servant heart, and thank you for just providing your guidance in his life. God, I appreciate the amount that I've been able to know him and just see him grow up and mature in the faith. I love you, Lord. I thank you for the brotherhood and the sisterhood and just that you call us to be family. I pray for whatever situations he's got going on. I pray for his safety on the job. Pray for his marriage and this potential new chapter he's pursuing as well. I thank you for just all the things you've put in place to keep my family safe, God, that I just, your provision is something else, man. You know, you truly are glorious, and I just thank you. And it's nice to, Logan, that just reminded me about your throne and the glory there. Just thinking about who I'm talking to. I appreciate that as well, Lord. Just iron sharpening iron there to give me a good reminder of something that I haven't really thought about in a while. Appreciate you. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks, brother.
Of course.
Appreciate you.